Dear students, I welcome all of you on behalf of Amity Institute of Organic Agriculture. Today, we will discuss about very important part of introductory entomology, that is mouth parts, different mouth parts of insects and types of mouth parts in insects, their modification of mouth parts in insects. So this is the structure of head of the insect. Later on you can see the visuals, manuals, anatomy of the insect in the video. Let us examine these parts. The compound eye is located in green color is the compound eye. A small green color circles are simple eyes. Between the compound eyes, the structure is yellow. Yellow color structure is called vertex, and below the vertex, in the middle of the head, there is a structure that is called frons. Frons is the internal structure of the insect. Then in the side, violet color, that is called jena. Clypeus is below, and the lower lip is called labium, and the upper lip of the insect is called labrum, and the inner part is not visible like tongue of the insect, that is called hypopharynx. The mandibles are jaw of insect in the both side of the insect. It is in red color. So let us go to the mouth parts. The mouth parts are important part of digestion of insects. They take their food materials through the help of mouth parts. Mouth parts lie in a cavity of head, and the condition different types of conditions are there. Ectognathus, intognathus. This is the situation of insects mouth parts. If it is outside the cavity, then it is called ectognathus, and if it is situated inside a cavity of the head, that is called intognathus condition. So these are the different parts of insect mouth parts. This is the upper part, that is called labrum. This is the tongue like structure is called hypopharynx. The side are mandibles for grinding the food materials. These are secondary organs, maxillae, secondary organs which can catch the food materials, and this is labium, that is called lower lip of the insects, and this is the middle part, internal part, that is submentum, mentum, labial suture, palpezier, prementum, glossa, palpus. These are the parts from where chewing and other functionings are done by the insects. So labrum is the upper lip of the insect which cover the mandibles and closes the mouth part cavity from the upper front. It helps to pull the food into the mouth. Mandibles are the interior or the first pair of true insect mouth parts, lies directly behind the labrum. Maxilla, these are directly behind the mandibles and are the appendages of the third post-oral segment. This is the third segment. This is the primary, this is the second, and this is the third segment of the mouth, that is called maxilla. Then cardo. Maxilla is made up of three parts. This structure can be divided into three parts: cardo, the triangular vessel attached to the head capsule; stips, it is the central portion of the body of the maxilla; and galea, it is the outer or lateral lobe articulating at the end of the stips. These are the different parts. Then labium. Labium is called the lower lip of the insect. It is the lying on the posterior end of the insects. This labium is divided into two primary structures. One is postpentum. It is the basal region of the labium and hinges with the head membrane. Prementum. It is the apical region of the labium and includes various lobes and processes. The central portion is the prementum, also called stipuli, which bears a pair of labial palpi, one on each side of the prementum, and each usually three-segmented in generalized form. Epipharynx and hypopharynx. On inner and posterior side of labrum, a membranous median lobe is there that is called epipharynx. Epipharynx is a sensory area believed to contain end organs of taste. And hypopharynx is a short tongue-like structure located immediately above the labium and between the maxillae are situated. It is formed like a lobe or mold and is associated with the base of labium and to be considered as a part of the labium. Now, different modifications of mouth parts. Mouth parts structure changes as per their requirement, and so there are adaptation or modification in the mouth parts. We will study one by one. Mouth parts vary greatly among insects in different orders, but there are two main functional groups. One is mandibulate and haustellate. Haustellate mouth parts can be further classified into following. Stylet. Stylet means piercing and sucking type, like in mosquito. They can penetrate and they can suck the blood. Rasping and sucking type, that is called thrips. B is non-stylet type, that is called siphoning. Examples are butterflies, a sponging housefly. The mouth part of housefly looks like a sponge. Chewing and lapping type, that is honeybee. Very important example. Stylets are needle-like projections used to penetrate plant and animal tissues or penetrate host tissues. The modified mandibles, maxilla, and hypopharynx form the stylets. Stylets are formed by mandibles, maxilla, and hypopharynx for their and it is called feeding tube. After piercing solid tissue, insects use the modified mouth parts to suck the liquid from the host. Now mandibulate mouth parts. Mandibulate means biting and chewing type of mouth parts. Examples are dragonfly, damselflies, and termites, beetles, ants, cockroach, grasshopper, and caterpillars. These are the examples of mandibulate mouth parts. Means they can bite the food material, they chew the food materials. So it is called mandibulate type of food material. Mandibles are more active. They act at biting and chewing processes. That is called mandibulate type of mouth parts. Now piercing and sucking mouth parts. Piercing means penetrating. Sucking means absorbing. Piercing and sucking top of mouth parts are used to penetrate solid tissue and thus suck the liquid food materials like cicadas, aphids, other bugs, flies, and mosquitoes. This group of insects are also called drinkers because they drink the blood or other liquid materials. In piercing and sucking type of mouth parts, the labrum becomes short flap, triangular lobe cover the labium group. Mandibles and maxilla are well developed, long, slender, and form delicate hollow needle bristle-like stylet, 4 in number. The piercing and sucking needle is formed from 4 hair-like stylets fitted closely together. Mandibles are chief piercing organs. The mandibles are double grouped on the inner face and when held together form two channels. One is for the passage of saliva into the food materials and digestion and the other is for the uptake of plant juices. Hypopharynx, the posterior part of the beak. Between the bases of the piercing stylets, there is a small conical lobe. This is called hypopharynx. The anterior wall of hypopharynx is continued dorsally into the chamber of sucking pump, labium, the lower lip of the insect, which forms a protective sheath for the stylets. Plant feeders like leaf hoppers, aphids, scales have same basic mouth parts and many inject viruses and other disease causing organisms into the plant along with their saliva. These are the structure of piercing and sucking type of mouth parts. The mouth parts of a mosquito is given here. The long needle pump-like structure is called proboscis. The, the tip of the proboscis is called stylets. These are the piercing and sucking type of mouth parts. Labrum, labium, stylets and proboscis. Now rasping and sucking mouth parts. Rasping and sucking mouth parts are a type of piercing and sucking type of mouth parts. These are found in thrips. Thrips belong to the order Thysanoptera. Thrips have asymmetrical mouth parts, means their mouth parts cannot be divided into two equal halves. Therefore, they are called asymmetrical. The right mandibles of thrips is reduced and in some species it is completely absent. Thrips mouth parts have a cone-shaped beak formed from the clypeus, a plate above the labrum in chewing insects, labrum, parts of maxilla and labium. This beak contains the maxilla, hypopharynx and left mandibles together to form a stylet. Thrips use the beak to rasp host tissues and take up liquid food materials from their stylet. Chewing and lapping type. It is found in bee, honeybees, wasps and it is modified for taking solid and liquid food like pollen, nectar and honey. Labrum similar to chewing type of mouthparts. Mandibles are similar to chewing type of mouthparts but become more or less flattened. Mandibles are flattened to form tools useful in molding wax, manipulating nest materials and grasping prey. Maxilla and labium. Gallia Labial pulps and glossa are elongated. They are longer in size and modified to make 5-part long cylindrical tongue. 5 long cylindrical tongues are formed in honeybees for lapping the nectar. Gallia form a pair of blade-like structure. The paraglossa are greatly reduced and glossa greatly elongated, means longer in shape. Longer and thin-like structure in shape. These are the modification. Feeding mechanism, how the honeybees feed their food materials. Food channel is in the form of concave inner surface of the gallia, roofing over glossa and fitting lengthwise against the labial pulp. Labial pulp make a food channel such that complex formed tube suck the nectar of or the honey. These tubes suck the nectar or the honey. In general, bees thrust out the glossa and tongue on open nectarines and licks out the nectar with the tip. These have long structure. They lick the nectar or juices of fruits, of flowers. Many other states that the liquid food ascends in capillary action through the ventral canal of glossa, and glossa is shortened by muscular pull on the inner rod, squeezing the nectar upward to the enter the space between glossa and base of paraglossa. This is the mechanism of intake in honeybees. This is the structure of chewing and lapping type honeybees. Oculi, frons, compound eyes. Clypeus is well developed. Labrum is shortened. Mandibles are there, flat mandibles. Maxilla, pulp, paraglossa, gallia, labial pulp. These are elongated. Glossa, that is tongue-like structure. They are elongated in shape. Now, siphoning type of mouthparts. The butterflies is the best example of siphoning type of mouthparts. Butterflies and moth, they have elongated stylets like to form highly specialized proboscis for sucking up liquid without piercing. They do not need to penetrate into the host plant, into the host structure, but they have well developed specialized proboscis for taking their food materials. Proboscis is a part in siphoning type of insects. It is formed as a lepidopterans in lepidopterans like butterflies. It is coiled proboscis. The proboscis is in coiled form. It is held coiled under the head when not in use. When it is in use, they erect the proboscis to catch their food materials. The proboscis is a long tube. It is formed by maxilla and gallia. You can see the proboscis. It is coiled. Gallia is coiled here. When it is needed, they can erect the gallia or proboscis and take the food material. Is like a siphoning type of mouthparts. Siphoning is flow of liquid from one layer to another layer due to difference in layer and osmotic pressure. A sponging type of mouthparts. Like houseflies have a sponge type of mouthparts. They have They are non-blood sucking type. They are not able to suck the bloods. The different examples are housefly, the family is Mucida, and many other dipterans. Liquid fluid is mopped up by the capillary action of this sponge. Labium is the lower side of the head. There is fleshy elbows or a sponge-like structure. In figure it is clear. The labrum, the labium, all are short in structure. They are not elongated. They are a sponge-like structure. These are modified maxillary pulps, labial pulp, labium and labrum. All are modified, not elongated, not a tube-like structure. This is a sponge-like structure. This is a pad-like structure and a sponge-like structure. Now cutting and sponging. The horseflies and certain dipterans have cutting and sponging type of insects. They can cut the skin and they can take the blood into their hypopharynx and into their esophagus. So with this we come to the end of this PowerPoint presentation. Now we'll watch the video to clear the doubts about the mouth parts. Let us see the video. Before that we have to adjust the sound.
Adapted for biting and chewing plants. The first mouthpart is the labrum, or upper lip. Behind the labrum are visible two triangular-shaped powerful pieces, the mandibles. Behind the mandibles is a pair of maxillae, each of which bears a 5-segmented sensory palpus. The masticatory system ends with a single piece called the labium, or lower lip, that bears a pair of palpi, each with 3 segments. These mouthparts will be dissected, then placed in a drop of water on a glass slide to be observed with a binocular microscope. The labrum is cut on its base. And then placed on a glass slide. The mandibles are moved aside and pulled out with a pair of fine forceps. The movements of the mandibles are ensured by powerful abductor muscles attached to a chitinous apodeme. Once the mandibles are placed on the slide, remove these muscles to observe the apodemes. In the middle of the mouthparts, one finds a tongue-like structure fitted with spines, the hypopharynx. Then, take out the maxillae by pinching on their base. The apodemes of the maxillae are also cleaned from muscles. Finally, after cutting the neck's synovial membrane, take out the labium and place it on the slide. The labrum has a concave shape and pushes the food back between the other mouthparts. On top of it is the clypeus. The mandibles are the most developed mouthparts. They have a serrated part to cut the plant and a molar part to grind food. The maxillae help to shred the plants. In the basal part of the maxillae are the cardo and the stipes. On the stipes are articulated the lacinia, the gallia, and the maxillary palpi, which are touch and sensory organs made up of 5 segments. The labium is an odd piece. Its basal part consists of the postmentum. The distal part, the prementum, bears the glossum, paraglossum, and 2 3-segmented palpi.